Fuel economy is such a big factor for a lot of people when it comes to car ownership. So how about a car that will never visit the gas pump or even use motor oil? What I have here is the Chery Arrizo 5 EV, the first fully electric passenger sedan from Chery Auto Philippines. And today, we get to drive it and live with it, at least for a few days. Let's do this! While Tesla may be the most popular nameplate when it comes to electric cars, not too many people know that China is the world leader when it comes to electric vehicles. China started its thrust towards electric transportation as early as 2001, a time when Elon Musk wasn't even thinking about electric cars. There are around 100 car companies in China that has an electric vehicle of some sort, and now we have the Chery Arrizo 5 EV on our shores. Chery Auto Philippines decided to bring in the Arrizo 5 EV as a statement car, a statement that Chery Auto is at the cutting edge of technologies, especially when it comes to electric vehicles. This Arrizo 5 EV is the first passenger sedan in Chery's local lineup since its return last year, and you can have this baby for only 1.9 million Philippine pesos. Now that may seem like a steep price to pay for a compact sedan, but do remember guys that the Arrizo 5 EV never needs to gas up, and you don't even have to do any tune-ups because this baby doesn't even use motor oil. The good thing about this Arrizo 5 EV is just how normal this baby looks. I mean, it looks like any typical compact sedan. You have a front grille here that's shaped like a front grille, but trust me guys, it's not a front grille. It's actually just designed that way to look normal. This electric vehicle doesn't require any front grills to cool down a radiator because, well, it doesn't really have a radiator. Right there in the middle, you have a blue Chery emblem there, and if you pop it open, you'll see that you have one of two charging ports for this car, and the second one is located where a typical fuel cap would be located. Now, if you'll notice the headlights as well, the headlights that can be found there are similarly shaped like some of the Tigo models in Chery's lineup. You have halogen headlights here, though you don't get LED headlights, but you do get LED DRLs down here on the front bumper. Overall, if you look at the front fascia of this Arrizo 5 EV, there's really nothing that will tell you that it's an electric vehicle, save for the fact that you have a blue Chery emblem here and the fact that, well, you don't really have a front grille. When you look at the side profile of the Arrizo 5 EV, you can see that it straddles the size of a subcompact sedan and a compact sedan. It's a little bit bigger than, say, a Toyota Vios, but a little bit smaller than a Toyota Altis. This side profile here, you'll see that it looks like any regular, normal-looking sedan, and I'm really liking it, guys. In fact, it looks so normal that Chery Auto Philippines decided to put a lot of these stickers here on the side and at the back just to tell everybody that this baby doesn't run on gasoline. It even sports an actual fuel cap at the other side of the car that houses the second charging port for your Arrizo 5 EV. That would be a great way to prank a lot of gasoline boys, guys. Now, I'm really liking this look. It really just looks like a regular, normal compact sedan because, to be perfectly honest guys, a lot of these electric vehicles out there, they kind of sport that weird futuristic look. Now, the Arrizo 5 EV also runs on 16-inch wheels that's wrapped in 205/55 R16 tires. Now, these wheels are gorgeously designed. I'm really liking the look. It looks like electric transistors to me, which goes with the entire theme and vibe of this Arrizo 5 EV. Now, behind those wheels are hiding four-wheel disc brakes. You've got ventilated disc up front, solid disc at the back. Now, you wouldn't want to bring this baby into let's say, a flooded Manila road because the ground clearance of the Arrizo 5 EV is only at 129 millimeters. That's almost as low as my Miata, and that's mainly due to the fact that the battery pack can be found underneath the floorboard of the Arrizo 5 EV. The rear end of the Arrizo 5 EV continues on with that normal sedan vibe. You get a pair of LED taillights here and a blue Chery emblem right there. And you also have some design cues on your rear bumper that looks like, well, exhaust pipes. But that's just crazy, guys. We all know that an electric vehicle doesn't really need something as primitive as an exhaust pipe. Now over here on the bumper, you'll also see that there's a statement that was placed there by the distributor, and it says that this Arrizo 5 EV can go as much as 350 kilometers on a single charge. Now that makes this baby the longest in terms of range amongst all the electric vehicles here in the country. And I can actually attest to that because I've had this baby for several days now, and I've been driving to so many places, but the Arrizo 5 EV still has plenty of juice left. Now when you pop open the trunk, you'll see that you get a cavernous 430 liters of trunk space, and if we want to translate that to Reagan's luggage test, that means it could accommodate one large suitcase that's good for 30 kilos and would take you to Europe, right? It's right there, and a second suitcase, a medium-sized suitcase, that's good for 23 kilos, and it's good enough for a trip to America. And as you can see, even with these a medium-sized suitcase and a large suitcase there, you still have plenty of space for other smaller stuff. Now over here, we have also the charger of the Arrizo 5 EV. And as you can see, this charger would connect to any regular wall socket as long as you have the proper adapter. The Arrizo 5 EV would take around 7 to 9 hours to charge if you're in a regular wall socket. But if you have a quick charging station, you can gain as much as 80% of the juice required in as low as 30 minutes. Now let's head over to the front and see what an electric motor actually looks like. The Arrizo 5 EV has a single electric motor, and it's conveniently located right here on the engine bay. If you look at this baby, it's ugly AF. I mean, the Arrizo 5 seriously needs some engine covers, at least to hide those ghastly orange pipings there for your electric tubings and whatnot. What we have here, guys, is a permanent magnet synchronous electric motor that is good for 90 kilowatt hours, or in regular gearhead speak, that's 120 horses. Maximum torque is at 250 Newton meters, and it's readily available from standstill. Yes, that's one of the quirks of an electric vehicle. You don't need to build up torque. This baby can easily do burnouts and reach 0 to 50 kilometers per hour in 3.8 seconds. 0 to 100 can be done in 10.2 seconds, which may seem a little bit odd given the quick sprint from 0 to 50. What you guys have to understand though is electric vehicles have a single fixed gear ratio that is tuned for brisk urban driving and to conserve the battery charge as well. That explains why at low urban speeds, it's quite quick and nimble on its feet, but once you reach highway speeds, well, the acceleration tapers down. The only electric vehicle in the world so far that has a 2-speed gearbox is the Porsche Taycan because, well, performance. Now, the first thing you'll notice when you step inside the Arrizo 5 EV are the seats. Instead of getting some space-age, eco-type material for your seats, you get brown leather. The leather is soft and plush, and with a quilted design that screams luxury, guys. Chery is even proud to say that the Arrizo 5 EV has 65% of its surface materials covered in leather. That is something that's normally found in more premium car brands. The steering wheel that we have here is also wrapped in good quality leather, and I love the stitching design here as well. It really feels quite premium and upscale. You also get your usual buttons here for your Bluetooth calling as well as for your cruise control, and some buttons to control your infotainment system. Now when you look at your instrument gauges here, you get a fully digital display in the middle. It's around 9 inches in size, and that is a great display there because, well, it shows you the maximum range that your Arrizo 5 EV still has. And I found myself looking at this display a lot of times, well, while I was driving this car, just to make sure that I would have enough juice and range to get to my destination. But with around 350 kilometers worth of maximum range, well, my fears and worries are pretty much unfounded. The rest of the design is still in an analog format. You've got a speedometer here on the left, and you've got a tach here on the right that instead of displaying an RPM gauge, it displays, well, kilowatts with a maximum of 100 kilowatts there. The funny thing here is you also get a negative 20 kilowatts for whenever you're doing an engine brake or when you're decelerating, and the car actually recharges your batteries and you get some of those energy back. Moving from your nifty instrument gauges here. Actually, they kind of look like the Tiggo 7's instrument gauges. But anyway, these are really nifty. You head over to your infotainment system, and your infotainment system, well, it's a 10-inch affair that has a great resolution to it. It's full HD, although it doesn't have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, but it does have Bluetooth calling. And it also has some features that will tell you the closest charging station to your Arrizo 5 EV. However, since we don't really get any charging stations here in the country yet, so that function is pretty much, well, not yet useful, at least as of now. Below that infotainment system, you also have a nice array of physical buttons here to control that said infotainment system, something that is fast disappearing in a lot of these newer cars. You also get a rear view camera here. You don't get a 360-degree view camera, but given the fact that this is just a compact sedan, that's not really a big issue. Below your infotainment screen and that physical row of buttons there, you also have a separate climate control button area here that is finished in a piano black finish. I'm happy that Chery put in these separate AC controls here, and these controls are pretty much similar to the ones found in the Chery Tiggo 8 Lux EX. However, I'm not really fond of the finish that they use here. This is all glossy black piano black finishes, so this is going to be a scratch and a dust magnet. In fact, if you look at the entire center stack of the Arrizo 5 EV, you've got mostly piano black finishes here, which looks really premium and upscale, at least on the first 5 minutes after you clean your car. From there, you also have a nifty little storage here that when you pop it open, you'll have a row of charging ports here. You've got a couple of USB ports and a 12-volt power charger as well. From there, you move to your fancy looking shift knob here, and this shift knob has well, 3 gears, well, 3 settings: reverse, neutral, and drive. If you look at this fancy shift knob, it actually goes up and down whenever you start and stop the car. This is a party trick that's been directly lifted from Jaguar. Now, before you go on and accuse Chery of copying Jaguar, do note, guys, that Chery and Jaguar has an existing technical partnership that's been around since 2012. Now, your park button, though, is separate from your gear knob. It's right here beside it, and that's next to the button that turns off traction control, and also a button that gives you eco mode or sport mode, similar to the ones found in the Chery Tiggo models. You also have an electronic parking brake here on the other side, and you have a nifty little storage area that has a couple of cup holders and a storage bin here where you could maybe park your car keys. Now, normally Chinese car offerings would have a small cup holder, so I brought a flask here, my Clean Canteen flask, and let's check out if it will pass the Clean Canteen test. Yep, it fits perfectly there, fits quite neatly in fact, so it passes that Clean Canteen test. From your cup holder storage area here, you also have a leather wrap center armrest here that also houses a nifty little center console. If you look at the dashboard, guys, the dashboard is also finished in brown leather, and it looks really plush and premium. I also love the way they designed the AC vents here. The recessed AC vent design just screams premium luxury, guys. You also get a small sunroof up top, which is pretty much standard when it comes to these Chinese car offerings. The cockpit layout of the Arrizo 5 EV is pretty intuitive. It's also quite plush, and it's totally unexpected from an electric vehicle. You even get mood lights underneath your center dashboard and in your door panels, something that's normally found in these newfangled Chinese car offerings. Now, let's check out the back seat and see what sort of space you get there, as well as whatever toys we can find. When you hop into the backseat of the Chery Arrizo 5 EV, you'll immediately know that you're in an electric vehicle. Why? Well, the floorboard sits higher than normal sedans. The reason behind this is you've got a large battery pack that's underneath your floorboard, and that explains why your floor is a little bit on the higher side. How do I say this? Well, if you look at my sitting position right now, my knees are actually higher than my hips as I'm sitting here. I'm only 5'6", guys, and I'm already feeling this effect. And if you're a taller person than me, well, you're going to really feel this, this little quirk that the Arrizo 5 EV has. In terms of headroom, the headroom is decent. It's around 4.5 inches before my head touches the headliner. And in terms of knee room, you've got a good amount of knee room here. And for leg room, well, the leg room is decent. You just have to get used to that feeling that your knees are going to be slightly elevated versus your hips. You could always stretch out your legs like this, as long as the driver in front of you or the front passenger is a short guy like me. This is my driving position. As you can see, I got a good amount of legroom space right there. When it comes to toys, guys, the Arrizo 5 comes with a couple of rear AC vents here with a nice Arrizo brushed aluminum finished garnish here and a sole USB port as well. I find it funny that this car also has charging ports up front and here at the back, because since this is an electric car with a large battery, this pretty much makes it the largest power bank that you could ever bring with you. Well, kidding aside, guys, aside from the rear AC vents and the sole USB port here, you also get a center armrest right here in the middle with a couple of cup holders as well. If you have small kids, you'd be happy to know that the Arrizo 5 EV comes standard as well with ISOFIX tethers. Now, let's get out of this back seat, hop back into the driver's seat, and I'll show you how it's like to pilot an actual electric vehicle as against a regular petrol-motivated car. One of the quirks that really needs some time to get used to is the sound. When you start this car, there is absolutely no sound at all. You need to check your gauge cluster so that the car will tell you that it's ready. Another way to tell that the car is ready to roll out is when the shift knob has already moved into its place, which means it got out of its shell. So now that this car is already running, let's head out and test it for a drive impression. Now, when you get over that initial shock that you hear no sound when you start this car, the next thing that you will have to deal with is the fact that at low speeds, this car is silent. It's quiet as a cat. While I'm going around at a relatively low speed here of around 20 to 25 kilometers per hour, you really won't hear anything except, well, the road noise and the environment noise outside. That's how silent this Chery Arrizo 5 EV is. It feels like you're driving a golf cart, except, well, it has air conditioning and leather seats as well. However, when you floor it, this car emits a sound that is pretty similar to the whine of a spacecraft. I mean, the geek inside me is delighted to hear this sound. Take a listen, guys. I hope the camera will capture this sound. Wow, man. I mean, yes, it's silent at slow urban speeds, but when you start mashing on that go pedal, this baby's 250 Newton meters is immediately accessible from the low speed all the way to the top. I mean, wow. That acceleration is exhilarating, guys, and you could even have that even while this baby is on eco mode. However, if you go on sport mode though, you'd really feel like supercar levels of acceleration, at least from standstill all the way to around 70 or 80 kilometers per hour. Woo! Yeah! Man, I love it. I love it. Now, another quirk of these electric vehicles, and the Chery Arrizo 5 included, well, the engine brake and the deceleration happens also quite quickly. When you release the go pedal, I don't really want to call it a gas pedal, guys, because really this thing doesn't have any gas at all. But if you release that go pedal, the car immediately bites and tries to recover as much energy it could recover from the brakes and from the engine itself. This is shown to you by your gauge that would display, let's say, a negative kilowatt consumption, and that is a pretty nifty thing that would help extend the range of your Arrizo 5 EV. Alright, so right now we're here at the stoplight, and I'm going to share with you guys how it looks like to accelerate from standstill in sport mode in your Chery Arrizo 5 EV. Let's go! Wow! It's doing a lot of wheel spin there. Yeah, but see, that's what 250 Newton meters of torque would do for you. Woo! Man, crazy. Yeah. Luckily, this thing has really good brakes as well. That's a nice stoplight run right there. Yeah, this thing really loves to wheel spin even with traction control on, especially when you mash on that go pedal. Now the good thing here, guys, is the steering feel of this Arrizo 5 EV. Well, this baby has a really nice feel to its steering. It's got a good heft to it, and it's got a good steering response as well. As you could see, I'm driving around right now, and yes, the steering wheel feels like the ones that you could find in a sports car. And you really need that in this vehicle, guys, because as I showed you, well, this thing can really accelerate like a supercar, so you need to have a good hefty steering wheel here, because if you have a light steering wheel that feels like an arcade, well, you might be prone to a lot of torque steer, especially since the Arrizo 5 EV powers the front wheels. So you just gotta be careful, guys, especially when you're gunning it, when you're stepping on that go pedal. You really need to have that nice hefty steering wheel. Otherwise, well, you might just lose control of this car, and that's not gonna be a good thing. Now, in terms of handling, guys, I love the fact that this Arrizo 5 EV handles really well, coupled with that nice feeling hefty steering wheel. This baby handles like, well, pretty much like a sports car. This Arrizo 5 EV has a curb weight of 1,500 kilos, and you could really feel that heft, you could feel that weight, keeping your car planted at all times. The good thing there, though, is that weight comes from the battery pack, which is located underneath the floorboard of this car. So that means that this baby, well, has a very good low center of gravity. That added weight would keep your car really planted, and I could feel it whenever I do some turning maneuvers, cornering, and overall handling of the car. However, the thing about its added weight, though, at 1,500 kilo curb weight, you also could feel it in the braking. You see, as much as this thing has a good set of brakes on it, well, you really have to allocate a good amount of distance when you're stopping, especially from high speed. The weight carries the momentum forward much more than a regular compact sedan. So that's something that you also have to keep in mind, guys. In terms of cabin comfort, guys, well, I could say that this baby is quite comfortable. It's going to be very decent and practical when it comes to, well, long drives and long distances. The seats are very well supportive. It's not really that plush, not as plush as some of the other Chinese crossovers that I've reviewed in the past, but it is quite decent. It's not as hard as the ones found in some of the other econo sedans that I've reviewed as well. So the climate control, the air is also pretty good. It's nice and cool here. And yeah, overall, guys, well, this Arrizo 5 EV is a surprising revelation for me. I never knew that driving an electric vehicle would be so much fun, guys. I mean, this baby is really so much fun. And the best part there is, well, you do your part in helping save Mother Earth. And that, my friends, is a really good thing. The Chery Arrizo 5 EV is a surprisingly pleasant electric car that looks normal but comes with supernatural levels of acceleration from standstill. As much as I am a gearhead or a petrol head that loves the sound of an engine roar, the intoxicating acceleration of the Chery Arrizo 5 EV from standstill is a fantastic trade-off. The fact that you don't consume any fuel at all and keep our air clean at the same time, well, that's just the cherry on top, baby. Once again, thank you guys for watching one of my car reviews. If you like this review, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. I promise you guys I'll make it worth your while if you subscribe to Reagan's Rides. I'm Reagan, and I'll see you again in my next video. Bye-bye.